The rain hammered against the windows of our little cottage in the Cotswolds, mirroring the storm brewing inside me. For 20 years, Barnaby, a clockmaker by trade, had loved Genevieve with a devotion that bordered on worship. We'd built a life here, a quiet life filled with the gentle tick-tock of time and the warmth of shared dreams. Or so I thought. It started subtly, almost imperceptibly. Genevieve, always vibrant and effervescent, began to withdraw. Her laughter, once a constant melody in our home, grew fainter, replaced by a distant, almost melancholic silence. She started spending more time at the village library, claiming a sudden interest in local history. I perhaps foolishly attributed it to a midlife yearning for something more, something beyond the predictable rhythm of our days. I even bought her a beautiful antique book about the Cotswolds, hoping to encourage her newfound passion. Looking back, the signs were glaringly obvious. Hushed phone calls, the way she'd quickly end conversations when I entered the room. The new perfume, a heady floral scent that wasn't her usual delicate fragrance. The increasingly frequent library meetings that stretched late into the evening. But I, blinded by love and a deep-seated trust, chose to ignore them. I wanted to believe in the Genevieve I knew, the Genevieve who had sworn to love me in good times and in bad. The first real crack in the facade appeared on our 20th wedding anniversary. I had planned a surprise trip to Paris, a city we had both dreamed of visiting. I booked a charming little hotel near the Seine, made reservations at a romantic restaurant, and even arranged for a private boat tour. I presented her with the itinerary that morning, my heart filled with anticipation. Her reaction wasn't what I expected. Instead of joy, I saw a flicker of something akin to panic in her eyes. She stammered, "Barnaby, I can't. Not this weekend." "What do you mean, you can't?" I asked, my voice laced with confusion. "I've booked everything. It's our anniversary." "I know, darling, and I am so sorry," she said, avoiding my gaze, "but I have a conference. For the library, it's mandatory, a conference, on our anniversary." The excuse sounded flimsy even to my ears, but I desperately wanted to believe her. I told myself that I was being unreasonable, that I was overreacting. I reluctantly accepted her explanation, masking my disappointment with a forced smile. That weekend was agonizing. I wandered around our empty cottage, the silence amplifying my growing unease. I tried to distract myself with my work, but my hands trembled as I tinkered with the delicate clock mechanisms. My mind kept replaying Genevieve's words, her evasive eyes, the way she had refused to meet my gaze. On Sunday evening, as I waited for her return, I decided to do something I had never done before. I went through her phone. I know it was a violation of her privacy, a betrayal of the trust we had shared, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. The discovery was like a punch to the gut. A series of text messages, exchanged over the past few months, revealed a clandestine affair with a man named Alaric. The messages were explicit, filled with longing and desire. They painted a picture of a Genevieve I didn't recognize, a Genevieve who was capable of such profound deceit. I sank into a chair, the phone slipping from my numb fingers. The world seemed to spin around me, the familiar comfort of our home suddenly transformed into a prison of lies. My heart ached with a pain I had never known, a pain so intense it felt like a physical wound. Alaric. Who was Alaric? I scrolled through Genevieve's contacts, desperately searching for a name that matched. And then I found it. Alaric Finch. He was the new village librarian, the man who had sparked Genevieve's sudden interest in local history. The man she had been meeting in secret, the man she had chosen over me, over our marriage. Rage, raw and untamed, surged through me. I wanted to confront her, to scream, to demand an explanation. But I knew that a confrontation would only give her the opportunity to lie, to manipulate, to try and twist the truth to suit her own narrative. I decided to play it cool, to gather more evidence, to plan my next move. When Genevieve finally returned late that night, she seemed tired but strangely radiant. She greeted me with a perfunctory kiss and asked about my weekend. I forced a smile and told her I had spent it working on a new clock. I didn't mention the phone, the messages, Alaric. I wanted her to think that she had gotten away with it, that her secret was safe. The next few weeks were a living hell. I continued to live a lie, pretending that everything was normal while secretly gathering evidence of Genevieve's infidelity. I hired a private investigator, a discreet and efficient woman named Bront, to follow her and document her meetings with Alaric. The photographs Bront provided were damning. They showed Genevieve and Alaric holding hands, kissing, entering his apartment together. They confirmed my worst fears. I also started to delve into Alaric's background. He was a recent transplant to our village, a charming and charismatic man with a reputation for seducing married women. He had left a trail of broken hearts and shattered marriages in his wake. He was a predator, and Genevieve had fallen prey to his charms. The more I learned, the angrier I became. I wasn't just angry at Genevieve for betraying me, for lying to me, for destroying our marriage. I was angry at Alaric for preying on vulnerable women, for disrupting the peace of our community. I wanted them both to pay for what they had done. I decided to confront Genevieve on her birthday. I knew she was planning a romantic dinner with Alaric at a fancy restaurant in Bath. I made a reservation at the same restaurant, for a table right next to theirs. I wanted to watch her squirm, to see the look on her face when she realized that I knew everything. On the day of her birthday, I presented Genevieve with a beautiful diamond necklace, a gift I had chosen with love and care. She seemed genuinely touched, and for a moment I almost regretted my plan. But then I remembered the messages, the photographs, the lies. I hardened my heart and prepared myself for the confrontation. That evening, I arrived at the restaurant early and took my seat. I ordered a bottle of champagne and waited for Genevieve and Alaric to arrive. It wasn't long before they walked in hand, looking like a couple of teenagers in love. Genevieve was wearing a stunning red dress, a dress I had never seen before. It was clear that she had gone to great lengths to impress Alaric. As they sat down at their table, I raised my glass and offered a toast. "Happy birthday, darling," I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "I hope you enjoy your evening." Genevieve's face paled. She looked at me with a mixture of shock and horror. "Barnaby, what are you doing here?" she stammered. "I thought I'd join you for your special celebration," I said, my eyes fixed on Alaric. "After all, I wouldn't want you to spend your birthday alone." Alaric, sensing the tension, tried to play it cool. "Barnaby, what a surprise," he said, his voice smooth and condescending. "I didn't realize you were a fan of this restaurant." "Oh, I am not," I said, my gaze never leaving his. "But I heard the company was excellent." Genevieve, realizing that the game was up, started to cry. "Barnaby, please," she begged. "Let's not do this here." "Why not?" I asked, my voice rising. "Are you ashamed to be seen with your lover? Are you afraid that someone might find out about your little secret?" "It's not like that," she said, her voice trembling. "Then what is it like, Genevieve?" I asked, my voice laced with venom. "Tell me. Tell everyone. Tell them how you've been betraying me for months, how you've been lying to me, how you've been making a fool of me." Genevieve broke down completely. She sobbed uncontrollably, burying her face in her hands. Alaric, looking increasingly uncomfortable, tried to comfort her. "You're making a scene, Barnaby," he said, his voice sharp. "And you're ruining my marriage," I retorted. "So I guess we're even." I then proceeded to lay out all the evidence I had gathered. The text messages, the photographs, the information about Alaric's past. I spared no detail, exposing their affair in all its sordid glory. The other diners in the restaurant watched in stunned silence. Some whispered amongst themselves, others stared at Genevieve and Alaric with undisguised disgust. The atmosphere in the restaurant was thick with tension. Finally, Genevieve stood up, her face red with shame. "I can't do this," she said, her voice barely audible. "I am leaving." She grabbed her purse and fled the restaurant, leaving Alaric to face the music. He sat there for a moment, looking utterly defeated. Then he too stood up and walked away, his head bowed in shame. I watched them go, a strange sense of satisfaction washing over me. I had exposed their affair, I had humiliated them in public, I had exacted my revenge. But as I sat there alone, surrounded by the remnants of their ruined celebration, I realized that revenge wasn't as sweet as I had imagined. It didn't bring me closure, it didn't ease the pain in my heart. It just left me feeling empty and alone. I paid the bill and left the restaurant, walking back to my hotel in the pouring rain. The Cotswolds, once a haven of peace and tranquility, now felt like a desolate wasteland. My marriage was over, my heart was broken, and my life was in ruins. The next few months were a blur of lawyers, divorce papers, and bitter arguments. Genevieve tried to apologize, to explain her actions, but I refused to listen. I couldn't forgive her. I couldn't forget what she had done. The trust was gone, the love was gone, and all that remained was resentment and pain. The divorce was finalized a few months later. I sold our cottage in the Cotswolds and moved to a small apartment in London. I threw myself into my work, spending long hours in my workshop, surrounded by the familiar comfort of clocks. I tried to forget about Genevieve, to erase her from my memory, but it was impossible. She was a part of me, a part of my past, and I knew that I would never truly be free of her. One day, a few years after the divorce, I received a letter from Genevieve. It was a long, rambling letter, filled with regret and remorse. She told me that her affair with Alaric had been a mistake, a moment of weakness that had cost her everything. She said that she had lost her job at the library, that Alaric had left her for another woman, and that she was now living a lonely and miserable life. She begged for my forgiveness, but I couldn't give it to her. The wounds were too deep, the scars too raw. I wrote back a short, curt letter, telling her that I wished her well but that I had no desire to see her or speak to her again. I never heard from Genevieve again. I don't know what happened to her or where she is now, but I hope that she has found some measure of peace, some way to atone for the pain she caused. As for me, I have learned to live with the scars of betrayal. I have learned to trust again, to love again, but I will never forget the lesson that Genevieve taught me, that even the most beautiful love can be shattered by a single act of infidelity. I continued to work as a clockmaker, finding solace in the rhythmic tick-tock of time. I eventually remarried, finding happiness with a kind and understanding woman named Bront, the private investigator who had helped me uncover Genevieve's affair. Life, as they say, goes on. But the memory of Genevieve's betrayal will always be a part of my story, a reminder of the fragility of love and the enduring power of forgiveness. Years later, I stumbled upon Alaric's obituary in a local paper. It mentioned a string of failed relationships and a quiet, lonely existence. There was a strange sense of closure, though the victory felt hollow. It didn't bring Genevieve back, nor did it erase the pain. It simply marked the end of a chapter I'd rather forget. Time, the very thing I dedicated my life to, had marched relentlessly forward, healing some wounds while leaving others as faint, yet persistent, aches. I had rebuilt my life, found love again, and even learned to forgive if not forget. But the echo of that rainy night in the Cotswolds, the night my world shattered, would forever resonate within the chambers of my heart.